Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back to PC Gamer Girl. My name's Gray. We are continuing with the letter today. I had a whole other plan to play a different game from Itch.io for Free Game Friday today. However, the game is on Itch.io. It's called A Dark Place. It is free to download. It's about 2 gigabytes. And it was... it is a bizarre experience for a game. Here's what happened. I installed it, I ran it, I played the first chapter. It crashed, okay? And then about 2 minutes after it crashed, I just moved on to another game because I was like, I'm not going to worry about a crashing free game from Itch.io, right? The game started messing with my computer. Like, legitimately. It signed me out of my computer. It, like, closed programs that I was opening. It flashed the little like monster guy on my screen even though the game was closed, and I like straight up thought that my computer was hacked for a second and then I like downloaded a virus from Itch.io. But no, it's like it's the game, and I was thoroughly convinced that it was like I had been hacked, but it was the game. And maybe next week when I'm a little more prepared I'll try it again. But if you would like to try it yourself and tell me if you have the same experience, like do it and let me know. I'll put the download link down in the description. But anyway, let's keep going. I'm still a little perplexed. Anyway, Rebecca said I need a long rest after this. They just got in a car accident, you know, or avoided a car accident, I should say. My hands fall uselessly to my sides, numb from how taut my grip on the wheel has gone, yet still trembling from the unexpected rush of adrenaline. Against my ears, my heart still pounds an erratic rhythm, and my breathing hasn't slowed down. But the world has already righted itself without waiting for me, and little by little, second after second, as I sit here motionless, color begins to seep back around me. Along with it are the sounds of a voice, no longer the indistinct ringing it was earlier.
Rebecca? Becca, are you okay? Answer me, will you? You're scaring me.
Calm down, she's fine.
You know what? I think we should just call a taxi since...
Can you keep it down?
Strained, harsh, and completely unintentional. But with heat pricking at the back of my eyes and the mild throbbing at my temple, I could honestly do with a little silence for now.
Keep it down? We almost crashed, Becca.
I know what happened. It was a lapse. I'm sorry.
A lapse? You call that a lapse? Becca, I really don't want to end up a mangled mess on the side of the road, or a mangled mess anywhere. All I'm asking, if the time ever comes, which I hope isn't right now, is a peaceful death. Give that one to me at least. Not that I'm asking for it, but please.
Isabella. Belle, you're overreacting.
Let me turn this up a little bit. So I had to turn it down for that last game because it was loud.
If you're so worried, why don't you drive?
Don't have a license.
I keep telling you to get one, didn't I? For the past 5 years. Do you see why now?
I wasn't really expecting to stay here this long. I thought it'd just be for a year or two.
All of a sudden, a pensive mood comes over her. Isabella looks away then, while what's left of my lecture never crosses the tip of my tongue. I don't allow it to. Because in each of those words she let loose earlier is a small truth. Her say has always been meant to be something fleeting. Earn some good money, go home. It's what she'd tell herself during her first year here. Now, half a decade later, I'm not sure if she still believes that. Even I'm not sure if I still believe it. And if there's something in her reasons that has changed along the way, even if I already have a hunch, it's one thing I'll never bother to ask. Those are hers to keep.
I'll be careful this time, I promise. Just please. Can we give this whole thing a rest for now?
She nods, and that's the end of it. We spend the rest of the trip back to Salemwell in silence. All thoughts of an overactive imagination playing tricks on a flu-addled mind, and of smiles never meant for my eyes. Abandoned, if only for a brief moment. October 25th, Tuesday. We're outside Rebecca's apartment. It begins innocently enough. Tuesday morning arrives like any other day before it, bright and clear. Even though it comes with an extra helping of the unusual October weather, I appreciate being able to catch a glimpse of the clear skies today. After going through a bout of sickness last week, it does something to lift the mood of what would otherwise be a dreary morning. And despite being mostly a creature of habit, I wound up waking earlier than usual because of it. Still no earlier than Isabella, it appears. I've assumed she'll take a day or two off because of what happened to Miss Cooper, but that doesn't seem to be the case. The sound of the morning news drifts from her unit when I walk past it on the way to my mailbox. Chances are, around this hour, she's already dressed and ready to go, probably just waiting for the next bus to arrive. I've tried following her example before, but I don't think I'll be repeating that.
Really? How can anyone be up before the sun is up?
I get up at like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning every single day. You get used to it. It's a habit she got from home, she said, instilled in her by the kind of life she grew up in. Like clockwork, it's always at 4 a.m., either to help with the chores or prepare her little siblings for school. It surprised me the first time. She just didn't look like someone who could. In the end, I've simply passed it off as one of the many things that anyone will have to get used to around her. Not that I'll ever fully understand. I'm my parents' only child. We aren't well off, but so far I've lived a relatively easy life. I didn't have to think about bills or food for the next day, or paying for any siblings' tuition on top of my own, or supporting a sick father's medication. All I have to worry about were my grades, if it came my mom and dad's approval, or what we'd be having for dinner. When put next to hers, they all pale in comparison. They look less like problems and more like petty issues this way.
Petty issues?
But as unimportant as it all sounds, sometimes its ugly head rears at the most inappropriate moments. And sometimes they come through your mailbox in the form of a fancy-looking letter, pretty ribbons and all. Whoever sent this has spent silly money on the envelope alone. Verging on ridiculous, really. I can already imagine Isabella wrinkling her nose when she sees this. Then she'll complain about unnecessary expenses and rich people problems. I'm almost afraid to touch it myself. As if simply brushing a hand against its crisp surface will be enough to put a crease in it, and it'll be a terrible slight to the sender. But as extravagant as I find this, it isn't really the first time I've received one. Most of the time it's not even for me, so who am I to complain? Either way, no look of surprise crosses my face once I flip the envelope over to see my parents' names written in a neat script.
Nothing new then.
Their years in the academy, I don't know, naturally brought with it various connections. People from other fields, art, science, business, politics, you name it. This one, though, gives off a much more personal vibe. Letters like this usually come from old students, people who've grown fond of my parents and they, in turn, treat like children of their own. I've only met a few of them. Most have moved on to become successful in their chosen careers, and little letters like this are their way of expressing gratitude. It's one thing Mom and Dad are proud of. Rightfully so, and I'm happy for them. But there are times I wish they'd remember they have a daughter here. The real one. Not that it's any importance now. It's not like they didn't raise me well and provide for me. They did. I wouldn't be here where I am now if it weren't for their hard work. And like a dutiful child, I do everything I can to give back. Even if it's a small thing as letting them know they've got a letter in the mail waiting for them. The phone rings for a good minute before someone answers. Mom, her voice is as warm as I can remember.
Becca?
Hi, Mum. How's the conference going?
Well enough. Until your dad sprained his ankle.
Oh no, is it bad?
I'm all right. In case anyone in this family cares to listen, I'm all right. Very much alive, darling.
And there you have it. He'll be up and walking in a few weeks, don't worry. We're going to have to extend our stay here until it heals, though. Is something the matter?
Nothing big. Just that this mail arrived for you this morning.
A lie. Thankfully, she doesn't notice. Although, if I'm going to be honest, a small part of me yearns for her to do so and ask me about it, but I put down the idea almost as soon as it surfaces. Yawn, excuse me. I'm so tired right now. I took Benadryl a couple of hours ago and it's kicking in. I shouldn't make them fret. They're busy.
What does it say?
Raise your glasses, give cheers to the good times, blah, blah.
Becca Manners. That isn't how I taught you to read.
Sorry, you are cordially... it's an invitation, Mum, for a housewarming party. From, Hannah?
The name rings a bell, though at a moment I can't recall when or where I've heard it recently. It must be nothing too important if I didn't bother committing it to memory. There are a lot of Hannahs in the world, so who knows?
She also wrote you a note, Mum. It says you used to be her private tutor at the Evans mansion, and that she misses you and would love to see you two again.
It makes my heart clench to read another openly say those words to them, the same ones I want to tell them. I want to see you too. It's been years since we've been together as a family, and if there's one thing that hasn't changed from childhood, it's that Mom and Dad are still busy with their respective careers. Out of the country, away on some meeting or symposium, sometimes for months on end. It only grew more frequent with the years until I'm old enough to live on my own. I'd like to think that's how I've become independent at such an early age. They've always praised me for that. At times, I wish they didn't.
Evans? Oh, I remember now. Honey, it's Hannah. Hannah Evans. Remember? Bright girl, 2 years older than Becca?
Didn't she get married a few years ago? 7 now, I think. But, they grow up so fast, these kids.
Yeah, she invited us to that too. Fonte de Medici. But we missed that one because you had to present your paper in Singapore.
We did send her a note after. Still a shame we couldn't attend, though. What is it about this time?
She sent another invite for a housewarming party. Becca, when is it?
This Friday, Mum.
Oh, that's too bad. We'd love to be there, but Da's not in a condition to go walking around. I guess we'd have to decline again. I really miss that girl.
I could go in your place.
I let it slip without thinking. Personally, I've never been fond of gatherings, regardless of how simple people make it seem. But if there's one thing I hate hearing, that disappointed note in Mom's voice always rings first. Whether it's directed at me or some other thing doesn't matter.
Are you sure? Don't you have work this Friday?
The event will be in the evening, Mum. It shouldn't take anything away from my schedule. It's all right. The invite's for 2 people. I can bring someone with me so things don't get boring.
I see. Maybe you can also invite Ashton?
Mum, that's a sure no from him. He hates attending parties. But I'll see what I can do. If not, I can always bring Isabella with me. You know her. She won't say no if there's food involved.
Okay, if it's not going to be a big problem for you, I don't see why not. We owe you this one, darling.
No problem, Mum. I'll even say hi to Hannah for you.
Please do. And let her know we'd love to see her once we're back in the city. Leave her our number or something.
I will.
But you know, the 2 of you would have become really good friends. Don't you remember? You met with her once. If my memory serves me right, you were 12 then?
This too, I can't recall. It's probably one of those meetings where we only talked a bit before going our ways. If she did leave an impression, I'm pretty sure I would have written about it somewhere, or at least recognized her name. As it is, the only few people I remember clearly from that time in my life is Ashton and Mandy. To some extent. Mom must have sensed my confusion because she laughs. I am having such a hard time reading.
Don't push yourself too hard, darling. Really? It felt like having 2 daughters back then. Sometimes I wish they didn't send her away to boarding school. But, well, you know how often that goes with them. Still, try talking to her while you're there.
Oh, we'll see. I'll let you know what happens after.
I'm looking forward to it, darling. Take care of yourself.
Will do. You too, Mum. Bye. Tell Da to be careful next time.
She chuckles then. A hearty one, tender and always light on my ears. She may be a stern teacher, but this is the part of her I love the most. The sound of it still echoes even as our call comes to an abrupt end, bringing with it a memory from so many years ago. When life and responsibilities that accompany adulthood are things far from our minds. If given the chance, I'd love to go back to those. I don't dwell on it, though, shaking it all away almost as soon as the memory forms a clear picture in my head. I've always wondered how Isabella can easily pretend everything's normal over a phone call, and then bounce back to her usual self immediately after. I've seen her do it plenty of times. For me, it just drains whatever energy I have. And with a whole day of teaching still ahead of me, I can't afford to look exhausted in front of my students. Even for a wee bit, it's never a good example to set. So with another sigh, I put everything at the back of my mind and tread back to my room. The rest of my day waits. 15 minutes later, I'm headed back out, dressed for the day, my car keys in hand. Ordinarily, I don't stop for anything. There's never a need to. That's the beauty of this apartment complex. It's quiet and everyone keeps to themselves. No useless platitudes in the morning. No need to wear a smile on your face lest other people are nosy enough to ask. Today, however, the morning broadcast still plays from Isabella's room. My brisk pace slows to a stop and a frown gradually forms on my face.
She hasn't left.
Of course, this isn't unusual. There are times when I've left earlier than she did, like last Friday before their open house. But those days are few and far between. It only happens in the direst circumstances, though the last part of that might be a bit of an exaggeration. However, with what's happened in the last few days, maybe today is one. The death of a friend isn't something anyone can brush off, and for someone like Isabella's the kind who gets attached to people easily. With Zachary, Ashton, and I, that has been the case. I can't imagine what she might be going through right now, especially when the woman was someone she owed a lot, despite their training being brief. I've given her the space last night in deference, but perhaps today might be the proper time to check on her.
Oh, whatever. I've still got time anyway.
With light steps, I move closer to her door, hand already poised to knock. Still, I don't do so until I hear her answer me.
Isabella? Belle? Are you in there?
No answer. After a second, I finally knock, lightly so I don't disturb her in case she's sleeping and has merely left the telly running last night. Never mind how she never lets that happen. Ever. Waste of electricity and all.
I just want to check on you before I leave. Is that okay? Are you going to work today, Belle?
Still nothing.
I'm about to leave. If you want, I can drop you off.
Another round of knocking. Then, I'm fishing out a copy of her key from my bag and unlocking the door. She lent it years ago after I complained about the mess and offered my help in cleaning up. I thought the gesture was completely unnecessary back then. After all, I could always knock. But she never did bother taking them from me, always returning it or turning away from the conversation whenever I insist. At one point, I've simply stopped trying to hand it back to her.
Isabella? I'm coming in, all right?
Without waiting for her to answer, I push the door open and step inside. Her unit's still a mess. Instant noodle cups on the table, a pile of clothes on one side, paper strewn about everywhere on an unkept bed, among other things. This much is a given, will always be a given. I've been here several times already, and I still wonder how she can function like a human being with the place in this state. However, that's neither here nor there. I'm not sure what I'm expecting, but it's certainly not finding an empty flat. Granted, she could have left earlier, far earlier than usual. But she never ever leaves without making sure she's unplugged everything. That's something she doesn't forget to do. It doesn't help that her bathroom appears unused this morning. Another habit, and it only means she hasn't been here since last night? Perhaps. Perhaps even since this morning after Mrs. Cooper's death? Either idea doesn't sit well with me. What with the news we've been hearing lately.
The authorities are still trying to find the cause of death for all the victims. Early investigation revealed most of them were employed under Briar Realty Corporation at the time of death. Meanwhile, BRC has refused to comment on this.
Gathering my wits, I immediately place a call to her mobile. It rings for a good minute, the sound of comfort in itself, but when another minute rolls by without her answering, well, I'm not a woman prone to panicking. Sudden bouts of temper maybe, but never panic, despite how I may sound when I'm speaking. And when it ultimately goes straight to her voicemail, a sigh is the only thing I let out. The pause doesn't last long, though. In the next moment, my fingers are already moving across the screen in search of the two people who might be able to help. It's Ashton's number I find first and dial. Call it a habit, but even Isabella thinks he's dependable when the situation calls for it, despite how much they give each other grief. That already says a lot about him. There's Zachary, but around this hour he's probably still sleeping. If he has freelance work, it's very likely he's just gotten himself in bed. He's the last person I want to bother, if anything. The wait doesn't take long. Soon, a click, then Ashton's voice echoes through the receiver, rough and still heavy with sleep. He never did grow fond of mornings.
Becca? Christ, what time is it? What's up?
Not you, apparently.
Good one. Did you call us early just to make that joke? I'm going back to sleep.
No, Ash, hold on. This is important.
Becca, stakeout last night. Make this quick. I've still got a few hours before the chief bothers me.
Sorry, I'll let you go back to sleep after. It's just that... Wait, you were on a stakeout last night?
Did I say that? Shit. Forget I said that. Forget I said anything. Forget we had this conversation.
So, you have no idea?
About what? About what? I also have no idea why we're talking so early in the morning, so there's that.
No, will you stop sleep talking or whatever for a second? Belle didn't come home last night. She's gone.
Who?
Isabella!
Instead of an answer, a brief pause comes after, followed by something blunt and heavy hitting a hard surface and a string of rather colorful curses from him. The moment might have been one of the many things I'll keep to myself and remember fondly in the next few days if things aren't the way they are. When he picks up again, there's no trace of sleep left in his voice.
Say that again, from the top.
Isabella's gone, Ash. She didn't come home last night. Her flat's empty. She left her telly running. You know she doesn't do that at...
Okay, Becca, stop. Calm down first. You're starting to panic.
I'm not!
You are. Breathe. One person's not going to simply disappear like that. This is Isabella we're talking about. Did you try calling her?
What did you think is the first thing I did? She's not picking up. It went to her voicemail.
How about Zach? Did you check with him?
Not yet. I didn't want to bother him. You know he has trouble sleeping and all that.
All right, I'll go ask Zach. I'll call you back.
No, wait!
He ends the call before I can utter a single word of protest. But for the first time since entering this room, tension has gone from my shoulders and my breathing has eased. The bed creaks as I sink down on it with a sigh. The telly still blares the same uninteresting news, and I'm surrounded by clutter. All the same, it feels strangely calm to be here without worry nagging me. I'll have to apologize to Zachary later for sending Ashton his way this early. But for now, relying on the latter for this isn't the wrong choice. It never will be. That's something I won't ever doubt in him, much like his promises. And true to his words, he calls back only a few minutes after the last one has ended.
She's with Zach.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. She could have at least sent a message last night.
What are you, her mother?
It's one thing to hear that from Isabella, but from Ashton?
I don't want to hear anything like that from you.
I'm serious. You've got to stop treating her like she's one of your students, Becca. You don't have to keep tabs on her every time.
Thank you! Good lord!
Last I checked, she's only 3 years younger than the two of us. That's almost a decade gap from those kids you're teaching, you know.
Says the person who keeps calling her Scaredy Cat.
That's not related at all. Anyway, I'll go check how she's doing. Don't stress yourself out. You go ahead to work.
Wait, you? Don't you have a precinct to be at? Whatever happened to not treating her like one of my students? Because if anyone's going to ask me, I think you're doing the same thing.
Zach said it's an emergency. Something happened last night.
Emergency?
He didn't put in those exact same words, but it sounded like it.
Ash, what really happened? Is Isabella fine?
She's alright. She's safe. Zach let her stay the night after she... Look, okay. Z-Man wasn't clear about it, but let me handle this. I'll check on her. I'll bring her home.
Okay. Sounds like a lie if I've ever heard one. It's not, though. The sort where he omits things so people won't fret, and I'm not sure whether I should be happy he cares that much to do that. There shouldn't be a need for this between us, is there? We grew up together, didn't we? He knows I'm capable of at least hearing out the truth without it gnawing at me for the rest of the day. He knows me better than that. I know him better than that. Frankly, there's plenty of other things to say about this. But despite and after all the trouble he went through with how things are moving at the moment, only one thought occurs to me. What should I say? Sorry for the trouble. I recognize his concern for what it is. It's not new for him to go out of his way for us, and to be honest, this is what I love about him. As much as I would have loved to take this off his hands, it'll only be selfish of me to insist, considering he knows of my other commitments. To do so feels like I'll be trampling on that kindness he seldom offers to anyone.
Sorry for putting you up to this.
Nah, don't mention it. You've got other things you need to worry about. Take care of those first. This is a small thing.
I still owe you one.
Oh, I can name a few things you can do about that. You know, there's this ice cream shop that opened near the movie house. I could use...
Okay, let's stop right there. That's enough. On second thought, maybe I'll just think about it some other time.
Harsh.
We both laugh to sound lighter and more comfortable. Like the old days when a wayward 26-year-old is at the bottom of the list we need to worry about. This is how we find a common ground. We may not agree on a lot of things. We may see things the way the other does, but the give and take is something we've learned to get used to over the years. Whenever it's like this, confidence in him is the least I can offer as thanks.
Really? Thanks for this, Ash.
I'll let you know what happened afterwards, I promise.
Jesus, all he's doing is going over there to check on her. He's not like, you know, adopting her or something.
I'll call you later. You have a good day. Bye.
I admit, the way he puts it isn't comforting enough. He can be blunt like that, so many unknown variables, so many words left unsaid. I wish he'd simply lay them all out in the open, because like this I'm more inclined to think there's an exaggeration on the other's part. If it's from Zachary or Ashton, I don't know. In the end, all I can do is wait, go about my day, and hope for the best. Before leaving, I spare Isabella's room one last glance, disturbingly quiet now without her in it. I'll get answers from her later. For now, my concerns are best left here. The rest of the day slips away in a blur. Despite my best efforts in keeping this morning's events from surfacing in my mind, it sticks. In a way, everything today simply feels like a reminder. Every conversation, regardless of how casual, every topic, no matter how mundane it seems. I blame the news entirely for this. Recent happenings brought quite a few interesting stories to everyone's attention, mostly superstitious talk of death. And when locals talk about death here, anyone can sure as hell count on someone bringing up that mansion Isabella sold not a few weeks ago. Even my own students won't stop yapping about it. I think it's even worse when it was put back up on the market. Now there are more stories. If this is the world reminding me of what matters, or simply because the atmosphere around this time of the year calls for it, I'd rather take the latter. At least then I can be sure people will forget about it in favor of another set of holidays after. Nevertheless, and this may be a painful thing to admit, but listening to them is a pleasant distraction while waiting for Ashton's call. She is so hard up. I hope he didn't forget. The school day's about to end soon.
No, that's got nothing with what I heard.
That is an old-sounding student. You always hear stuff. I'm not sure if half of them's even real.
No, really. Rowan knows about it. He used to be in the same class with them.
I can hear you from back here, you know.
Oh, I guess Rowan is real.
Whatever, Rowan. Anyway, the story goes like this. There were 3 of them. They entered the mansion on a dare, and they were all never seen again.
Ooh, go back a couple episodes where it said I think we lost Marianne, and watch that episode if you don't know what that means.
No one knows what happened to them. Up to this day. Scary shit, man.
Cock and bull story. Calling it now.
No, you don't get it. Why don't you ask Miss Gales then? Better yet, why don't you go inside the place? I'm betting my allowance you can't do it.
Their talk immediately halts when I walk up, all of them suddenly pretending to be engrossed in their current activity. Still, a word to put a stopper to this nonsense if needed. Creativity and imagination fostered by these stories is one thing, But reckless ideas should be corrected before anything potentially tragic comes from it.
Back to your worksheets, everyone. And I don't want to hear any talk of dares or going inside that mansion. It's private property now. You'd all better stay away from it before...
Oh my god. At the noise, the whole lot of them goes silent. You can almost hear a pin drop. The look on their faces would have made for a funny picture, but that's irrelevant at the moment. If that is a student loitering around, someone's going to be in trouble.
I'll be back. If you're done, you can leave your worksheets on my desk.
You know what? Out of the corner of my eye, this patch of leaves right here in this window looks like a Michael Myers mask, like this guy. Yeah, it's the weirdest thing.
Keep the noise to a minimum while I'm gone, okay?
I can sense their eyes on me as I walk out the door. A muted kind of anticipation. A bit unnerving, but it's far from more agreeable than the feeling of being watched I've been enduring these past few days. Class is still in session for most of the rooms. In a few hours, once the final bell rings, however, this place will once again be filled with busy chatter and footfalls, an everyday cycle in itself. But for the moment, I let the silence guide me, my ears focusing on whatever sounds there were, or there will be, searching for that distinct clanging of metal. A good minute passes, and for the portion of it, only my steps echoes through the halls. For another, I'm about to turn around when the sound of it halts my footsteps. It's a little muffled and infrequent, but grows louder after each interval. With the hallway devoid of people, if I don't put a stop to it soon, it'll start to disturb the other classes still going on. Looking for it doesn't take long. All I do is follow the racket, and shortly after, I'm standing in front of a nondescript row of unoccupied lockers. And from inside one of them, sitting in the middle, comes the noise. Annoyingly disruptive now that I'm facing it. Like someone's pounding on the metal door from the inside, hoping to get out. Leaning forward, I try to get a glimpse through the horizontal slats, whatever's causing it. But in this light, only darkness greets me and another round of clanging. Louder than the previous one. More desperate. I've heard stories before, from other schools, from a few colleagues who had to deal with it once or twice. Although personally, I've never encountered one myself, and I can only thank the heavens I haven't yet. But
If this is another kid some other student stuffed in a locker...
with a huff, I straighten up and study it briefly, with a frown. Without delay, I reach for its handle, and at once it stops. Immediately replaced by the muffled sound of a mobile phone ringing. I give the door a few raps before taking my attention away. A second, another. When nothing or no one responds, I finally avert my eyes and pull out my mobile. Ashton's voice greets me from the other end of the line, oddly cheerful in this light of this morning's matters. Or maybe because I'm just expecting some grave or serious news from him. Instead, I get this.
Hey, Becca.
Well, you sound happy.
I do? My voice still sounds the same to me.
There are only two things I know of that could be the reason for that tone. Sweets, or he's gotten a good lead in his case. From the sound of it, I'm going to assume it's the former, since lately that case is all that's running inside his head. If there's ever a third one, I've never heard of it, yet. Can only be one of the two.
Ignore that. How's Isabella?
Drove her home a few minutes ago. I think she's sleeping now. Sorry this took a while. Z-Man gave us the puppy eyes after we tried to leave. Had some food prepared for us, apparently. We didn't have the heart to say no.
That's all right. Is she okay now?
I'm not really sure. She didn't say anything to Zach, but she mentioned a plan to take a few days off from work. It was a passing comment before I left her, so I didn't get to ask.
Must be because of Rose's death.
Could be. It doesn't seem like it from Zach's story, though. He said she was shaking when she got there.
Shaking?
The word triggers a memory. From 3 days ago, on the way home from her little retreat after she sold the mansion. I didn't think much of it at the time, but I won't lie. It scared me. The terrified look on her face, how she sounded when she suddenly screamed.
Becca? Still there?
Yeah, I just remembered something. Sorry, don't mind me.
Look, if you can talk to her, get the story out of her. That would be great. She wouldn't talk to Zach or me even when I tried. Maybe she'll speak up if it's you?
I'll give it a go, but I can't promise anything, okay? You know how stubborn she can get. But thanks for letting me know about this. If you want, I can get you that ice cream thing you mentioned. Tonight, As thanks. Just as thanks for all
God.
the trouble I've caused today.
She's so awkward.
Believe me, I'd love to take you up on that offer, but I've got something on my schedule this evening. Maybe some other time? Thanks a lot, Becca.
There's a short pause before he cuts the call from his end, and once again, I'm alone with my thoughts. But rather than answers, all I got from it are questions. More of them, one on top of the other, as if the world isn't planning to give me a break anytime soon. Story of my life, but that's a problem I'll tackle later. Right now, I've got students who need to be taught follies of eavesdropping, if the slightly open door and their smothered laughter from inside is any indication.
All right, enough eavesdropping. All of you, back to your seats. None of your business.
He totally is. A quick scuffle follows that comment. If there's a retort prepared at the tip of my tongue, I drop every pretense of letting it loose on them. There's no use arguing with teenagers sometimes, boisterous as they all are. You're 29. They're still my kids, though. Rough around the edges, maybe, but still my kids. Shaking my head, I head back to my classroom with a smile, but not before taking a glance at the locker again. Hasn't made a sound since.
Oh, must be the wind.
So without another look, I leave it alone. Oh, Jesus Christ. All in all, the entire school day ends without a hitch. It could have gone better, mind you, but with the exams nearing, getting out of work before the sun has set looks as though it's a far-off dream for now. At least until they're over, then we have the holidays to look forward to. There really are times when you simply take what you can get for the time being.
Nothing wrong with that.
All I'm hoping for this will continue until the whole day ends. There's still promises that I made to Ashton, and frankly, the idea alone doesn't sound good. If Isabella didn't talk to them, what makes them think she'll talk to me? It's not like there's a hierarchy, is there? Just because I can handle Isabella's childish tendencies doesn't mean I can do it all the time.
Really, those two give me too much credit.
Nevertheless, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, if only because I'm also worried about her. And both Zachary and Ashton deem it important that somebody get the story out of her. Here's to hoping it's got nothing to do with the letter, again. I understand if she feels a bit stressed lately, but keeping that story going on for more than a week is... it's bound to get tiring at one point. Seriously, I merely don't want this to end in another argument. God willing, the cafe special will help smoothen things out. After all, it's always been food with her. Or money. But mostly food. I need water, 1 second. Okay. At this hour, the cafe is usually filled to the brim with people. That's the reason Isabella and I rarely ever go here during the evenings. It's simply too much of a hassle when we can prepare food ourselves in the comfort of our homes, and there really isn't much reason to eat out lately. What with life going on a busy streak. No time for long lines. Better spend that doing something productive, yes?
Lucky there isn't one tonight.
Only few people here are idling around the counter. 4 of them, in fact. A woman in her 60s, a teenager busy with his phone. Both are just waiting to be served their orders. The other 2, a posh-looking man and a child, who I immediately recognize as Kylie, appear to have not yet picked anything they want. For some reason, my stare lingers at the guy. Though dressed relatively well and looking harmless, I haven't seen him around these parts before. Someone new in the neighborhood, perhaps. Even so, there's something familiar about him. Feels like I've seen him somewhere before. That also begs the question of why Kylie is with him. Of course, the girl easily takes a liking to anyone who buys her sweets, so it's both a bit worrisome and unsurprising. The blonde bloke doesn't look particularly thrilled with the company, though. I tear my eyes away from them soon enough once the guy at the counter appears, ready to take my order. That, and I'd also hate to be accused of ogling strangers.
2, evening special, takeout.
He's already punching the order in before I even finish. Saying my order out loud is really more of a formality's sake and made out of habit. He's known Isabella and I long enough, and if we were ever to drop by here, he already knows it's always because I'm buying dinner for the 2 of us. I rarely visit here alone if I can help it, but Isabella can sometimes be a bad influence. He gives me a small smile before leaving to prepare my order, while I fish for my wallet when...
Look, you little ankle biter. If I buy you the biggest parfait they have, will you please behave? I would just like 10 minutes of peace and quiet.
You said you'll get me some bread pudding this time.
Yeah, well, darling, they said they ran out of it.
I love bread pudding.
Just pick another one so we can be on our way.
That parfait doesn't look as cute as the one my mom bought me.
Parfait is just ice cream, sweetheart. It'll melt no matter how dainty it appears. In the end, it'll all look like an ugly puddle. Now come on, just pick one. It could even be the most expensive one on that list. I don't give a shit. I don't care. Oh, what I would give for someone to buy you off my hands right now.
What? My whole attention instantly snaps back to them and their conversation. Jumping to conclusions isn't something I'm particularly fond of, especially when all I have is baseless assumptions. But you can't really trust a stranger these days. No one around the cafe seems to have noticed his words either. Very suspicious words. Still, I don't move. Yet. But my hand has already shifted from my wallet to the book I'm carrying. A hardbound textbook. Looks harmless, but if a situation calls for it, it might be a good, deadly weapon. Might. I haven't gotten the chance to try it anywhere so far. Today could be the day.
But you promised.
Look, if you don't want a parfait, how about a Bonifay pie? I'm sure it'll taste just as good as any other bread pudding. I'll even buy you the entire tray. How does that sound?
That's not what you said before.
Well, sweetheart, adults change their minds sometimes.
You said if I come with you, you'll buy me a bread pudding, and I did, and now you won't keep your promise. I want to go home. I miss my mom.
No, darling, if I remember correctly, and I have a good memory, honey. What I said was, if you come quietly with me, I might buy you one. The quiet part didn't happen. Though now that I'm sober, I think this is a bad idea. And I should just ship you someplace else for that peace and quiet.
Oh, that's it. No hesitation. In a few paces, he's within my reach, and without warning, I'm slamming the flat area of the book against his skull.
Ow!
There's a cry of pain, followed by him instantly crouching down, hands nursing the sore spot. This girl would be, like, she would just go to jail. I mean, this would never happen in today's world. Almost comically, if this were a different situation and the safety of a St. Coretti student isn't at stake, I'd probably feel sorry for him. I mean, has anyone seen how thick this book is?
Get behind me, Kylie.
Miss Pink!
It's amusing how fast her expression changes from the pouty one earlier to something that of utter delight upon seeing me. But there's no time for any pleasantries. Not even quick ones, because soon the man straightens and I'm readying my favorite newfound weapon for another hit. Except this time he's ready, and before I can land another one, his hand shoots up to catch my wrist in a firm hold. Ooh! And the look on his face.
Bloody hell, woman! What's your problem?
To say he's pissed would be a complete understatement. Had I been the weak-willed sort, I'd probably cower under his sharp gaze. But that simply isn't how I roll. If he thinks he can scare me and do as he pleases here, just because I'm a woman or whatever his reasons may be, he's got another thing coming for him. So instead, I return it to him with the same intensity, with the same venom.
What's my problem? You're the one who has a problem here. Rotten bowbags like you don't deserve the freedom to run this town. What are you doing to this girl?
And why is that any of your business, pray tell?
Oh, it's my business if I make it to be. Now, release me or I'll call the police.
You think that scares me, Daisy?
I have a name, you sleazy douchebag.
Oh, I'm sure.
His grip on my hand only tightens when I attempt to shake it off. His tone may be dripping with anger and sarcasm, but the gleam in his eyes says it all. He's getting a kick out of this. Riling people up, getting on their nerves, invading their personal space. He knows exactly what and which buttons to push. The nerve of this person. The nerve of this asshole. If he thinks I'm going to give in to his goading, please, he might as well just kiss his sorry behind. Shout for help or hit him where it hurts. Why not do the most sensible thing right now? Teach him a tough lesson. Hit him where it
Mister,
hurts.
you have until the count of 5 to let me go and step out of my personal space.
A fair warning. Fairer than I can offer for people of his kind, and I'm already being considerate. Hell, this arsehole doesn't even deserve a warning. He doesn't listen, well, he's as much responsible for what will happen next as anyone.
Or else what? Such vulgar words coming out of that pretty mouth. A gorgeous flower like you shouldn't even be saying.
Don't say I didn't warn you, Bowbag.
Love that intensity, Daisy. FYI, I like feisty in a woman. It gives them this certain charm.
Oh, Luke, you're so gross.
Why don't you?
5.
A second of silence. Then without any preamble, oh god, I got an achievement. My leg moves in one fluid motion and delivers a swift, powerful, well-placed kick to his nether regions. Needless to say, the effect is instantaneous. He yelps, abruptly drops to his hold on me, and kneels over, howling from the pain. I can see tears forming at the corner of his eyes too, though the mere sight of it prompts not an ounce of remorse from me. I would have been gentler if he isn't such a dirty little prick with an ego too big for his head. Too bad. Whether this obliterates any chance of him ever procreating remains to be unknown. Or remains to be known, but a part of me is already praying he doesn't ever breed after this. We have no need for more of him in this world.
You mad woman!
I warned you, you ass!
Why this is harassment, I'm telling you! Harassment!
Then why don't you tell that to the police once they get here,
You despicable! Whatever you're assuming I am, I'll have you know it's all in your head. None of it's true. You best have that pretty brain of yours checked before that gets worse. What is wrong with you? Is this the face of someone who'd do anything suspicious?
Oh? You don't think a stranger luring an innocent child with promises of sweets before whisking them away from their parents doesn't warrant any suspicion? You have a very funny definition of suspicious, asshole. Maybe you're the one who should have that head of yours checked.
The kid asked me to buy her sweets. You're the one who's suspicious here. I'll have you know.
Oh boy.
I have a wife.
That much at least appears to have a sliver of truth to it. He even makes a show of brandishing his left hand to my face with much flourish. Sure enough, a wedding ring is there, though all that earned him is an unimpressed glare from me. Immediately, a small part of me starts to feel sorry for whoever, whatever, poor woman married this sod. I don't understand why he has to bring her up, either, as if the mention of her alone will magically present a solution to his problem. She must truly be a remarkable woman if she can handle a dirtbag like him.
And even my wife of all people in this bloody city, has never, I'm telling you, accused me of such a scandalous thing! You crazy woman!
Married or not, you're still a sleaze. Honestly, I feel...
Miss Pink, why are you fighting with my tail?
Oh boy. Whatever word's still left to be said here dies on my tongue. The same thing goes for the sleaze. Beside us stands Kylie, gawking at us with the same curious stare she often brings with her. I know that look all too well, a precocious child through and through. She doesn't say anything further. Her gaze simply moves between us, eyeing us both carefully and clearly anticipating an answer. From my experience, when it gets like this with children her age, it's a sure sign they won't leave you until you've given them an answer they're satisfied with. Lying won't do either. It's dissolved into a shouting match, for heaven's sake. And did she just say Tio? Something falls straight to the pit of my stomach at that. But my tone is gentle when I finally address her, void of any apprehension and what might be the first hint of embarrassment. I pointedly ignore the latter. It can very well be just the hunger speaking.
Kylie, sweetie, do you know this oaf?
Yeah, he's Tio Luke.
Right at that moment, my brain stops. Every line of thought, every argument I still have against the man beside me dissipates in a haze. Amidst all of it, one memory gets triggered from a few days ago.
Tio? The one you mentioned before? The uncle? The guy Rowan wanted to impress? Or was that a dare? I'm sorry, I can't recall. Is it the one who promised he'll take Big Brother someplace cool?
Yeah, the one and the same. Don't you know who he is?
I sure as hell don't, darling. Because if I do, I wouldn't have let everything I've said earlier come out of my mouth.
He's my Tio Luke. Gazillionaire extraordinaire, am I? No, the fairy godfather.
Oh, he's your godfather. That's nice.
The one and only. Did I get that right, Tio?
More than right, sweetheart. I'm sure Miss Pink here understood everything you said quite perfectly.
Whatever it is that landed at the bottom of my stomach fire shot straight up to my face and stayed there. The heat from it slowly spreading to my cheeks, coloring my face in almost the same shade as my hair. If only the earth would swallow me whole here and now. His eyes are on me. I can feel them jeering and mocking. I can't even bring myself to look at him. What's in there? Amusement? I doubt it. He's probably having the time of his life right now. But I know. I can hear the sneer in his tone alone when he talks. He has that smug grin on him, which I may or may not want to punch off his face at present just for the hell of it. But damage control. I need to do some damage control before this whole thing goes south. Let's apologize to Kylie. Screw Luke, he's a dog. Of course, an apology is the most appropriate thing to say. But no matter how much I will myself to do it, my own body refuses to budge. My own mouth refuses to open, and my head rejects the very idea of looking at him. No apology for an arsehole. Not to someone with an ego too big for his head. Let his pride suffer. I'm not going to eat my words for the sake of stroking his damn ego. Let alone less reason for him to gloat. Kylie, however, I owe an explanation.
Don't worry, Kylie. I'm not fighting with your Tio. This is just, a discussion. A very serious discussion between a very mature adult and one that's not.
Really? But I've never seen Tio angry before.
It's because he's losing the argument. But don't ever follow his example, Kylie. You should always learn to be patient, even if things aren't going your way, okay?
Oh sure, a discussion. And it involves hitting random strangers you meet at a cafe with a book. A hardbound book. Mind you, the little me hasn't recovered yet. If my future generation never survives from this, we are going to have more than words, woman!
I don't allow Kylie to hear his tirade, and cover both of her ears with my hands. As fond as she is of the man, there are words he shouldn't be saying in front of a child. How can he not know about that? More importantly, how on earth did someone like him become a godfather? Who allowed it? Maybe I should talk to Miss Suarez about it, warn her how he's not a good influence for her children.
Language! How can you use such crude words in front of her? Your goddaughter can hear you, for heaven's sake.
Oh, and you didn't. If I remember everything correctly, you called me a rotten beau.
So you're going to repeat it in front of her, just to make a point? What, are you 5? Even 5-year-olds are more sensible than you.
Even Isabella, I can say that much with much certainty.
Even 5-year-olds are more sensible than you.
See what I mean?
Are you fighting again?
Oh, no. Like I said, we were just having a discussion. We're actually done now, but you need to promise Miss Pink you will never grow up like this guy. Good kids don't do what he's doing.
But I like Tio.
And I'm quite sure Tio likes you too. But liking people is different. Just because you like him doesn't mean you have to be like him. There are better role models for you aside from him.
Like you?
Not exactly what I'm trying to get at. But if that's what you want, I don't see why not.
Okay, I want to be like Miss Pink someday. I want to be a teacher, and I promise I won't be like Tio, even if he's a gazillionaire.
Wow. Turning my own goddaughter against me. How mature of you, Miss...
His tone makes me pause. For the first time since this talk started, I look at him. Briefly, something flashes behind his eyes. Something close to what might be an expectation falling, dismay, I can't be sure. Passes almost as soon as it appears. What's that about? Does he actually like having Kylie around? Doesn't seem like it from the get-go. But if that fond smile on him is anything to judge by, then maybe.
Don't worry, Tio. If you buy me bread pudding tonight, I'll like you again.
Aw, if that's all it takes, consider it done, sweetheart. We might have to find another place to buy it from, though. Somewhere safe. Where a random crazy woman isn't going to attack us out of the blue. Let's go.
Okay, bye, Miss Pink. I still like you, just not more than Tio anymore. See you.
Kylie's already pulling him to the cafe's exit before I can protest on it. Although it's not like there's anything to object on any further. I may view that man, Luke, as someone hateful, maybe to the point of seeing him as an eyesore, but I don't think that'll have any bearing on what the child thinks of him. When you think about it, if she admires him so much like that, then maybe there's still something agreeable in him. A part of him only Kylie sees. He still has the gall to wink at me before they both disappear behind the door, so maybe not. However, there's no moment to ponder about it. Seconds later, the guy at the counter waves me over and hands me a paper bag as soon as I've paid. He offers me another smile before I leave. Normally, I return it simply for the sake of returning it, or I don't at all, with the latter happening more commonly. For the time being, I do so freely. After that encounter and the scene we've caused, seeing a friendly gesture being extended to me, albeit from a person I barely know on a personal level, it feels like a reassurance, despite bearing no promise of better days. I take what little I can of it with me as I step out into the night. Okay guys, we are going to wrap this video up here because that was a lot. Ugh. Whew. Oh man, I'm really liking this. Rebecca's story is the longest one I've been told, so it's going to take a bit still. And we still have Ashton and Luke to play through. So man, we're just blowing right through this really. Anyway, if you like this video, please hit the like button down below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, hit the little notification bell, and make sure you check all so that you don't miss a video from me. And follow me on Twitter, PC Gamer Girl, or follow me on Twitch, and the channel's name is PC Gamer Girl YT. You can find the links down below in the description. I will talk to you guys later. Have a good day. Bye!